When it comes to holiday specials, Dreamworks has managed to create a nice collection of Christmas movies to watch each year using its wide array of characters. From taking on Santa's annual sleigh ride to pulling a holiday heist, which of our favorite Dreamworks Animation characters managed to make it onto the nice list? And which ones are likely to get a lump of coal? This is Dreamworks Holiday Specials, Naughty to Nice. The specials we'll be talking about today include Shrek the Halls, Trolls Holiday, Kung Fu Panda Holiday, The Penguin's Christmas Caper, Merry Madagascar, Gift of the Night Fury, and our latest special, The Bad Guys, A Very Bad Holiday. As always with our holiday videos, we're switching things up and starting with our naughtiest characters, before moving our way up to the nicest characters around. These are our naughtiest characters. Getting our gold medal of naughtiness is Nana and Mr. Chew. Even before she became an absolute menace in Madagascar 2, Nana wasn't exactly an old lady that you wanted to mess with.
You are one tough cookie.
The Christmas Caper short shows this perfectly as we see her berate both a gift stand worker and a taxi driver, telling the latter to drop dead, before then proceeding to punch her apartment's doorman in the gut for no reason. Nana also proves to be a terrible dog owner. As well, she does try to discipline her pup by having him wait until morning for his gift, and then scolding him when she believes he wrecked the place. Nana doesn't bother actually keeping an eye on her dog, preferring to watch football instead. Speaking of Mr. Chew, he gives Minnie Poodles a bad name by being so vicious towards Private and the other penguins. But then again, Nana can be pretty vicious too, so perhaps he was just taking after his mama. At any rate, they're both getting a wrath medal in their stockings alongside a huge lump of coal. Moving down to our silver medal, it's King Julian. Hey, Santa had him on his own naughty list, and we certainly can't argue with that.
What's the naughty list?
After all, he was the one who brought about the Red Goblins, aka Santa's coal attack upon the other lemurs by being so naughty. We also have to talk about his whole Julianuary holiday thing. As fun as it is with all the dancing, it's mostly an excuse for Julian to celebrate himself, leaning into his very obvious sense of pride and ego. As he says, Julianuary is about the joy of giving to him. He isn't even super grateful regarding the gifts, yet he still forces the other lemurs to hand over their Santa-crafted toys. Thankfully, after some reluctance and some prodding from Santa, Julian does make a change in the end and discovers the joy of giving gifts in the form of coconuts. He doesn't completely change, mind you, but it is enough to save this furry little king from the very bottom of the naughty list. Keeping with our Madagascar characters, the bronze medal goes to Santa's reindeer. Even though they don't play a huge role in Merry Madagascar, they're still notable antagonists in that they choose to not help out the Madagascar gang, and were more than willing to let the world go without Christmas just for the sake of saying that it was the penguins, aka South Polar's, fault. The leader of the reindeer, Donner, even tries to frame the penguins after their crash landing, claiming that they took the sleigh out for a joyride. While Santa is just as kind-hearted as ever even while having amnesia, these reindeer barely seem to care about their duties and instead spend the entire special being petty and putting their North Pole-South Pole rivalry above everything else. Thankfully, not all of these reindeer are jerks, as proven by Cupid and her eventually standing up to Donner, being driven by her romantic feelings for Private and her willingness to be bipolar. Can't tell if that joke aged well or not. Finishing off our naughty tier, we have DJ Trudy Tood from the Bad Guys Christmas Special. Being the city's main DJ after the bad guys accidentally destroy the big Santa balloon and ruin everyone's Christmas spirit, Trudy takes it upon herself to stop playing Christmas music and instead play angry, heavy metal music. When Shark takes it upon himself to try and distract her while Webbs and Piranha hack in to change the station's tunes back to Christmas music, Trudy is pretty bored with his antics, claiming that she doesn't work with sidekicks, and being fairly rude and dismissive towards him. She actually goes so far as to try and attack him with a mic stand, chasing him all around the radio studio as a means to get her own anger out regarding the loss of Christmas, especially once she ruins his flawless Scrooge disguise and recognizes him as part of the bad guys gang. Even if it could be argued that it was somewhat justified given the attempted distracting and hacking that Shark and the others were doing, we still can't completely overlook the attempted physical assault. Before we move on to our nice characters, let's take a look at those who managed to land right in the morality middle. Welcome to the gray area. With this, it's time to talk about the bad guys themselves. While we all know what happens to this lovable gang by the end of their introduction film, the special takes place a year before then, hence why these bad guys are still, well, bad. Although they don't do it on purpose, they still wreck their city's holiday plans, nearly ruining Christmas for everyone. This prompts the bad guys to do what they can to bring back the city's holiday spirit, if only so they can have a better chance at robbing the city blind before the holidays are over. A pretty greedy motive, there's no denying that, but it does still result in some good. While all the bad guys have their mix of naughty and nice moments, such as Webs making a giant robot Santa, we wanted to give a special shout out to Wolf, being the gang's leader. Wolf is the one who first encourages them to try and give gifts so that they can steal other things from various banks and businesses later when they close for Christmas.
Let's go do some good so we can be bad.
Even after these efforts seem to be successful in bringing back Christmas cheer, Wolf really just doesn't know when to quit, leading to him accidentally causing a huge blizzard when he tries to make it snow. It's then that Wolf shows his more heroic side that we saw in the film, going above and beyond to save both the city and his friends from the bitter cold. They may not be good guys just yet, but they do make a good step forward, which even Santa can acknowledge, as we see him give them gifts as thanks for all their nice deeds, much to the gang's disgust. But while lovable thieves are one thing, sometimes the most frustrating people during the holidays are the ones with too much Christmas spirit, as we end up seeing with Donkey in Shrek the Halls. After all, he's the one who ends up bringing all their friends to the swamp, ruining Shrek's hopes of having a quiet Christmas with his family. With Donkey and all their fairy tale friends comes all the usual chaos, especially once Donkey takes over Shrek's telling of the night before Christmas. Throughout this special, Donkey sort of walks that line between simply being excited for the holidays, wanting his best friend to share in this excitement and joy, and just being plain rude and obnoxious about it. You could argue it's naivete and that he didn't mean any real harm, but that excuse only goes so far. What's more, Donkey doesn't really apologize for any of this.
My mama used to always say, Christmas ain't Christmas till somebody cries.
Simply seeing all the craziness as part of the holidays. Still, we will give him credit for eventually acknowledging Shrek's perspective on the holidays and giving him the space to celebrate in his own ogre-y way. Heading over to the island of Berk, we have to give a quick mention to Fishlegs. While he typically doesn't get a role outside of being Hiccup's friend and a fellow dragon rider in the How to Train Your Dragon films, this holiday special arguably shows Fishlegs at his worst. When the other dragons start leaving for unknown reasons, Fishlegs is so desperate to keep his dragon, Meatlug, at home that he ends up tying the poor thing down and keeping her in his shed for safekeeping. But while this is a pretty terrible and selfish thing to do, we aren't going to put him all the way down in the naughty list here, as Fishlegs is just a kid. He still tried to keep Meatlug well-fed and happy despite the whole kidnapping thing, and if Meatlug can forgive him pretty easily, well, we can too. You know those people who are all about the holiday traditions to the point where it becomes just a bit of a problem? Well, that's ultimately the role that Master Shifu plays in the Fu Panda Holiday special. Still just as stern as ever, Shifu pushes Po to uphold each of the palace's winter feast duties, not cutting him very much slack at all even once the poor panda starts getting stressed out. Perfection, at least in Shifu's opinion, is the most important part of the holidays, to the point where he's briefly shown being dismissive of more commoner traditions in favor of the palace's elegant and sophisticated ones. Even once everything has been set right and the feast goes off without a hitch, Shifu still seems to care more about the event itself and everything continuing to follow tradition than whether or not Po is actually enjoying himself. He's even pretty mortified when Po and the others choose to celebrate the holidays outside of the palace instead. Thankfully, once Shifu sees how much fun they're having and how much joy they're bringing to the townsfolk, he finally lets go of tradition and gives his approval, even accepting Po's invitation to join them in the end. The holidays really can be a stressful time for people and ogres, and we're sure no ogre knows that better than Shrek. As we learn in Shrek the Halls, ogres don't typically celebrate the holidays, making that year's Christmas Shrek's very first Christmas. Heck, he probably wouldn't have even tried to do anything for it if not for Donkey and later Fiona encouraging the idea. But honestly, even if it wasn't Shrek's first Christmas, we're sure he still would have been overwhelmed by everything. We also feel like by the time his butt was set on fire, many wouldn't necessarily blame Shrek for lashing out and kicking everyone out, even if the way he does it and the implication that he doesn't see all his friends as part of his family is admittedly pretty harsh. Thankfully, Shrek apologizes for losing his temper, emphasizing that he does care about them all and invites everyone back to his place, regaling them all with his own version of the night before Christmas, featuring ogre claws. While his temper is still a work in progress, it's safe to say that Shrek isn't a complete Scrooge, so long as he has people beside him who he's willing to try and be merry for. We've finally arrived at the true angels of the season. These are the nice characters. Starting off the good is Alex the Lion. Admittedly, Alex doesn't start the special in the best light, focused more on getting him and his buddies back to New York. When the so-called Red Goblin attacks, it's Alex who shoots him down, though he immediately regrets it once he realizes it's Santa. Although he uses the opportunity as a possible way to get home to New York, Alex mostly steps up as a means to make sure that Christmas isn't ruined for everyone because of him. He and the other members of the Madagascar quartet may not be the best Santas ever, but they certainly do try their best and actually still manage to get presents to most of the world's children in the end, despite all the initial frustration and accidental property damage. Additionally, Alex and the rest of the gang ultimately decide to return to Madagascar instead of going home for Santa's sake. Given how badly Alex especially wanted to be back in NYC, it really speaks to how truly selfless this lion can be when he wants to be. Sometimes holiday cheer can bring out a whole new side of someone, and if we're being honest, this new side of Astrid is certainly an improvement from the hostile and tough girl persona she had in the first Dragons film. Even after her dragon Stormfly mysteriously leaves, Astrid takes it upon herself to come up with new holiday traditions to, as she puts it, bury the sadness of losing their dragons during Snoggletog.
You know, to bury the sadness.
Granted, her ideas aren't necessarily the best, yak-nog anyone, but she still tries her best to lift everyone's spirits. She does bring up the idea of Toothless possibly not coming back when Hiccup shows her his gift for him, but to be fair, she does immediately dismiss this as ridiculous and assure that Toothless would return home, even after gaining the ability to fly by himself, so it's not too mean. More just a bit thoughtless, which speaks to her still being a teenager and all. This carelessness also extends to her new gift-giving idea, as she had no idea that dragon eggs explode when they hatch.
The eggs explode?
But hey, given how mysterious dragons still were to her and the other residents to Berk at that time, we aren't going to blame her too much. From the island of Berk to the land of trolls, we're ranking Queen Poppy next. Being the new troll queen, Poppy is shown leading her kingdom in its many, many holiday celebrations. As such, it isn't too surprising that when she hears about the Bergens not having a holiday outside of the former Trollstice, she puts in the effort to give them a brand new fun holiday to look forward to. Admittedly, she does go just a bit crazy with all her efforts and holiday suggestions that aren't exactly catered to Bergens, but it's made clear that she has the best of intentions with it, and in the end, she is at the very least able to inspire Bridget, teaching her the true meaning of the holidays beyond all the decorations and craziness. We should also mention that once Poppy finally listens to both Branch and Bridget, Poppy is able to eventually realize that she was partially in the wrong for ignoring them, and ultimately make amends. As she says, she's still learning how to be a good queen and an even better friend. Just outside our tier of niceness, we have Poe. Admittedly, Poe ends up making quite a few mistakes when he is given the task of hosting that year's winter feast. However, each of these mistakes are driven more by Poe's inexperience and the stress that he goes through than actual maliciousness. The only instance where he's sort of a jerk, outside of getting wrapped up in hosting duties and briefly ignoring his and his father's family traditions, is when he dismisses all of China's best chefs. Still, even this, it's only so he can try to give his father the chance to cater the event, with Poe understandably wanting to spend the holidays with both him and his new kung fu friends. But once things have settled, Poe makes the choice to do what he feels is right, excusing himself from the feast and instead choosing to help his father feed the people of their neighborhood. He even makes sure to restore the honor of Wohop, the first chef that he dismissed, albeit accidentally, by giving him the golden ladle. The special makes it clear that while he'll still at least try to be a responsible master and fulfill his duties as the dragon warrior, Poe's family and friends will always come first. And given it's the holidays, aka a time all about family and community, we definitely have to respect that about him. For our bronze medal of niceness, we have to give it to Hiccup. During the Berk holiday of Snoggletog, all of the dragons mysteriously leave, and Hiccup, after being reminded that Toothless can't fly himself, ultimately decides to help his friend fly home, despite not knowing Toothless or the other dragons' reasons for it. Like his father, he shares the belief that the dragons will come back. But more than that, Hiccup just didn't want Toothless to be forced to always rely on him, seeing it as unfair and not wanting to hold the dragon back from being happy. Ultimately, it's this love that makes Toothless want to continue flying with Hiccup instead of alone. Hiccup also supports Astrid's efforts in trying to create new holiday traditions, further emphasizing their new bond following the first Dragons film, and even ends up being the one to lead the return migration and bring the baby dragons back to Berk just in time for the holidays. Earning our silver medal of niceness is the Furious Five. Given that the holiday special takes place just a short time after the first Kung Fu Panda movie, it's just really nice to see how much the Five's friendship with Poe has continued growing and strengthening since their not so great first impressions of him. They immediately offer their support when they hear that Poe is hosting, and when finally asked, they're able to help Poe prepare the huge winter feast using their kung fu skills. It's certainly more help than what Shifu gave, given that the Five actually gave some assistance instead of just nagging Poe about what he was doing wrong. Later, when Poe leaves the feast to be with his father and their neighbors, the Five support him 100% and even join him at the village festivities, assuring him that he made the right choice and, in Tigress's case, making sure to wish him a happy holiday. Oh, finally, our gold medal of niceness goes to the penguins. While they do what they can to help with the mission in Merry Madagascar by being the ones to fly and occasionally crash the sleigh, the true reason for them being ranked so high up comes from their spotlight short. At first, only Private stands out as nice, being the only one of the four who's concerned enough about Ted the polar bear being lonely on Christmas.
He looks so sad.
that he goes out to get Ted a gift. Once the others discover he's missing, Skipper and the others immediately go to rescue him, citing the famous penguin credo, never swim alone. While they do cause quite a bit of property damage within Nana's apartment, we can argue that it was in self-defense, except for maybe that bit where Rico was about to drop an anvil on Nana's head, but he didn't actually do it. So anyway, we see afterwards just how much of a kind influence Private has on his team, as it only takes one last reminder of the penguin credo for Skipper and the others to invite Ted over to enjoy the rest of Holiday. And really, we couldn't think of a sweeter end to this holiday list.